Greetings, everyone. This is Rock and Roll Spot Comanche with the Weekly Comic Book Roundup. We're most of the way through, so we just covered Amazing Spider-Man. So let's move on to Miles Morales Spider-Man number 9. Where we left off, Miles and his girlfriend Starling were dealing with the Hobgoblin, who was apparently attempting to rob a Beyond storage facility. He had managed to take out most of the security protocols, but not all of them, and so Miles and Starling are trapped inside with the Hobgoblin. Also, Miles has been having some issues with his spider sense ever since what happened with Carnage. So Miles is dealing with Hobgoblin. Occasionally he's able to get a leg up on Hobby, but not always. Starling is found by a Beyond robot called GARE, Guided Asset Recovery Engine. Miles continues to fight with the Hobgoblin, and like I said, he manages to get a few hits in, a few thwips. But Starling and Gare manage to catch up to them, and Starling points out that Hobgoblin's the one trying to steal Beyond items, so Hobgoblin kind of becomes Gare's primary target. But an explosion occurs, though the building explodes, remains the building at least. Starling gets Miles out of there, and he finally tells her what's going on. So much has been happening to him. But they talk some more a few rooftops away, and Hobgoblin manages to find what it was he was looking for. And it's basically the memory restoration device that Ben was trying to get Peter to use. Namely, so that Roderick Kingsley can get the voice of Queen Goblin out of his head. And that is where the issue ends. It's like Queen Goblin's pissing off more than a few people. But solid issue, and the story's not yet over. This is just kind of a lull in it to be continued. So I'm guessing that between the interlude in Amazing Spider-Man and this issue of Miles, Queen Goblin's is poised for a much bigger role, which is good, because after Gold Goblin I was worried they just kind of said, okay, we're just getting rid of this character, but thankfully they're not. Moving on to our next book, we've got Red Goblin number 7. Where we left off, Goblin Nation had kidnapped a friend of Normie's, Tim. However, Phil Urich, the Goblin King, had decided to liquidate the team that kidnapped Tim, and even with a hey, yeah, go ahead, kill, dead hostage makes, hostages die when things get messy, so yeah, kill the hostage. We opened with years ago with a meeting of the Loners support group, wherein Darkhawk, Chris Powell, explains that the night before he had fallen off the wagon and used his superpowers to save someone. Phil tries to kick him out of the group, but Turbo sticks it up for him, kind of saying, "Hey, he fell off the wagon," and then so we try and make sure it doesn't happen again. But Phil is just like, where does it end though? One of us slips and another, and before you know it, they're discussing costumes and a friggin' team name. Outside, Phil and Mickey are talking about why he moved to LA. Just to get away from, all of it. Yeah, see how sometimes he wants to be the Green Goblin again so badly he wants to climb out of his own skin. So he moved to coast to get away from that feeling, and he wants to help the rest of the kids make a fresh start too. Most of all, he wants to be a part of something that can't be taken away from him, something that isn't a part of someone else's legacy. And in the present, Normie has goblined out, and well, Rascal appears to be more having in greater control, and well, might be not so much attacking, but fighting the cops. But Miles catches him. Crossbones makes his way to the kidnapping team and starts taking him down. Miles and after a fight between Miles and Red Goblin, they talk. In part because Miles uses one of his venom blast. After a water tower gets overturned, Miles uses a Goblin blast or a venom blast to electrocute Normie and Rascal. And they talk. The leader, Phil's second in command of Goblin Nation, puts up the most fight against Crossbones, and in fact manages to get Tim out of there. In part after Tim stabs Crossbones in the collar with a Stark Industries pen that he has from the orphanage. There's an explosion though, which gives the two of them enough time to get away. After Miles and Normie talk, Miles volunteers to help rescue Normie's friend Tim, and then states that he's going to take Normie to someone smart and stretchy about getting Rascal out of him. Which one thing that Normie's been realizing is that the rage that comes out when he goblins up isn't coming from Rascal, it's coming from him. And the issue ends with Normie and Miles swinging off. Good issue. I'm glad to see Red Goblin interacting with additional Spider-Man characters. It makes us feel more like an actual ongoing than just a mini-series that someone decided to keep running. Moving on, though, to our next book, we've got Spider-Man Annual number 1. The first in the Contest of Chaos annuals. Yeah. Agatha Harkness is kind of sort of trying to resurrect Chthon, and in fact, in part by having stolen his heart from Wanda's, actually stolen his heart, not figuratively, but as the ritual begins, Spider-Man arrives home from planting the Rhino and ends up in the lost city of El Dorado. And Chthon appears to be trying to get free, though Agatha's prepared for such an eventuality. In the city of El Dorado, which at the moment, well, Spidey doesn't know where he is. Spidey runs into Wolverine, who looks around and actually will realize that first off, it's Spider-Man, and second off, they're in El Dorado. They work together briefly, making their way through one of the temples, and they find a glowing stone. Spidey and upon looking at it, it influences both Spidey and Wolverine, leading them to fight over it. Initially, Spidey manages to get it, but and then Wolverine takes it back, and but Spidey ends up managing to once again reclaim it. And yeah. But Wolverine gets it, teleports away, and then a day later in New York, Spidey asks Jessica Jones, or tells Jessica Jones that Wolverine is gone, adding that he doesn't know what's happening. He was in the city of El Dorado, something like that. Wolverine and him found this glowing orb, and then he just vanished. Spidey doesn't know what he did, and he doesn't know what to do or how to get Wolverine back. Doesn't even trust reality at the moment, and well, the last thing Wolverine remembers is fighting with him. That's probably not a good thing. But Jess says that there's probably a lot more Spidey needs to tell him, so they need to stop wasting time. On the ship that Agatha is conducting her rituals from, Logan steps through a portal with the orb and is congratulated on his victory. And the whole thing will be continued in the Iron Man annual this year, where an Iron Man fights Storm. I didn't have much hope for Constance of Chaos. It's honestly about as good as this is about as good as I figured it would be. So, yeah. Moving on, though, to our next book, we've got Guardians of the Galaxy number 5. Where they left off, the Guardians had rescued Rocket and added them to their merry band, with Star-Lord stating that, he talked to Groot, and Groot had something to tell him, but he wants to tell all of them at once. Rocket thinks that Quill's full of shit. Basically stating that Groot's dead. Mantis kind of does a weird multiversal thing where she just becomes various versions of herself, telling the Guardians that the rest of the Guardians, they try and be better. Adding, Groot's trying to tell him something, but he can't say to just one of them. It's got to be all of them. And she also states that she likes Star-Lord's beard. And she says she's done with just drinking, shooting, and drinking again when the shooting's done. And if they don't try and get Groot back, then she doesn't even know what they're doing anymore. But big battles started up in part of the Manifold, and so the Guardians fly right into it. But with Quill tries to talk sense into the two warring factions when Groot Falls shows up and starts turning everything into Groots. They attack the ship and breach the hull. And the Groot-covered ship flies into the mouth of one of the Groot Falls. And that is where the issue ends. Interesting. Looking forward to seeing what the actual cause of Groot Fall is. I think that's what they're setting up for the next issue. Hopefully Groot can be recovered. I'm sure he will be. Groot's a moneymaker for Marvel, and they know it. Not in the way it means of selling comics, but in the ways of selling non-comic book merch. Moving on, though, to our last book for the moment, we've got House of Slaughter number 16. Kicking off a brand new story arc, Alabaster. So this issue actually fills us in on some lore of the Order. But a bunch of white masks are dealing with an obscure type, and well, they're not exactly having the best time of it. So one of the white masks orders the bait sent in. Cecilia grabs the bait. The bait is the boy shown on the cover. Young kid, no arms. All the other younger white masks are talking about him. Then comes the briefing. A blue mask and a red mask. Monster going after kids in a small town with a population less than 1,000, and well, the Order doesn't believe in statistical anomalies. But the blue mask asks about the bait. And but she asked if the blue mask had ever noticed the peculiar game of billiards the white masks play. Explaining that the gameplay, there are similarities to the traditional game. Stick, make pretty ball go in hole. Now, the important part though is it's a cooperative game. Players versus nature, player versus self. All players must get all the colored balls in pockets with the fewest strokes possible without scratching. Scratch, the game is over. But the ball is alabaster. And so we get our little bit of lore on the Order of St. George. In the old world, during the colonization period of the New World, the Great Dragon sent representatives from each of the houses, from each of the masks out. However, the Alabaster House said, I don't have a representative. I'm sending myself. But he smashes the alabaster stone that he has. The bait is brought to a young couple outside the town. Basically put up with a foster family. His familiar comes out and looks over the other boys that he's sharing a room with before the bait falls asleep. And that is where the issue ends. All right, interesting start. I especially like the additional lore about the white masks. House of Slaughter is always a good read. Same with the book it's spun off of, Something is Killing the Children. But anyways, that's going to do it for now. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Big shout out to Patreon patron Xander Lee. Thank you so much for your support. It means the world to me. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Mastodon, Patreon, and PayPal can be found in the description box down below. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off saying, live long and rock hard.